I am making sure to clean up my workspace because I know some of you feel some kind of way when I leave stuff back there behind me. That was my vitamins, by the way. I take a daily vitamin every day. If you can't swallow a pill, I can't swallow a pill. So I take these little, it's like a cookie bite. I figured since I was cleaning it up, I'd show it to you. But I really like these. It's like a little cookie bite, and it's my daily vitamins. And it works really well, I think. I've been taking these a few months. I never took vitamins every day because I can't swallow one of those giant horse pills. All right, so if you're interested, I'll link that below. I'll leave it in the description box. If you want a multivitamin that you don't have to swallow like a horse pill, you might like these. So anyway, so you may remember a couple weeks ago I did a video on the most common reasons that people leave Naples, Florida. And not just Florida in general, but Naples, Florida in particular. And we went over a lot of the reasons, kind of the Achilles heel in that area, the things that bother people in that area in particular. So I got a lot of comments on that. I got a lot of consultation requests on that. I think a lot of you were really seriously thinking about Naples, Florida as your retirement home, and it just caused a little bit of pause, and some of you wanted to talk through some things that you had on your mind, which is why I do consultations, so that you make a good decision. Sometimes you just want an outside opinion, somebody that's not involved in your transaction at all. So that said, it got me thinking that we should go a step further on this and talk about some things you could do instead of just like selling the farm, so to speak. So sometimes you've been in Naples, Florida for whatever it may be, a year, 3 years, 5 years, and you have become disenchanted for any number of reasons. But what we didn't talk about, and what I never hear anybody talk about, is how many people rebound back. How many people go back to their home up north and then they have regrets? Well, today we're going to talk about the 5 reasons, the 5 most common reasons that people leave and come back. And then just a few things that I think you can do so that that does not happen to you, because sometimes you can't come back. Sometimes it really creates a problem, and the comeback is $200,000 higher. So let's get into that. All right, so number 1 is that they miss their friends and relatives up north much more than they thought they would. They thought that in normal everyday life, they hardly ever see cousin JoJo. They hardly ever see the grandkids. The grandkids are 15, 16 years old. They don't see them as often anymore. Nobody's gonna miss us. It is not a big deal. So they move, and then they realize that they're missing birthday parties and graduations and Christmas. And yes, you can fly home, but they found that flying home was not as easy or as convenient as they thought. They realized that life was kind of going on without them in their home state, and it started to get to them. And on those days, especially during the rainy season, when they weren't outside and enjoying the sunshine, and what can happen is you start to kind of focus on this, and it becomes all you're thinking about. I didn't get to go to this soccer game, or I didn't get to go to this event, or cousin JoJo is getting older and I probably should be spending more time with her, or I miss my sister, or whatever it is. All of a sudden, this becomes a lot more grand in your world, and you start to feel like you really want to go home. And if you're in a pattern of a tropical depression, or you're in the rainy season where it's raining all the time, that can really set in quickly. And sometimes people make a decision that they later regret. So before you sell the house, before you get it on the market, I would strongly suggest you first go down the path of going home more. Go home once a quarter. Go ahead and put it in your planner. Make it a priority. Put it in your planner. Buy the tickets. Buy 4 tickets a year, 1 a quarter, and go home more. If that doesn't work for you and you're still kind of having that feeling, then go home for a while. Go home for 2 months, 3 months, maybe even a full season. But try that before you actually sell your home. Number 2, the heat is getting to them. They feel like the heat is so unbelievably oppressive. They feel like the lanai outside is the reptile house at the zoo. It is wet, it is uncomfortable, and they can't deal with it anymore. They want to go back to Massachusetts where it's almost cool all the time. You have very mild summers. Yes, the winters are unbearable, but they're starting to feel like this oppressive heat in the Naples, Florida area is even worse. Now, I am speaking specific to Naples because when you get down in that subtropical climate, which a lot of people call the breakpoint Tampa, I would call the breakpoint kind of south of Cape Coral. I just think it really does start to get hot. The summers are hot, and they're not just hot, they're humid and they're wet and they're heavy. It is uncomfortable. Now, the good thing is we do have air conditioning. Just like anywhere else, you can just spend time inside more often. But when you get in that mindset, when something's going wrong in life, other things become worse. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like magnified. So you start to feel like, I am not going through one more summer. I'm done. I'm out of here. So you move back to Ohio, and then the winter comes. Or you move back to Boston and the winter comes, and you realize that the ice and the snow and the sludge and the long gray winters when it's dark in your house, literally all day long, that is far worse than just coming in from the sunshine and hanging out in the air conditioning. Number 3, they move back to Michigan, Ohio, Missouri, wherever it is, and they miss the scenery. They miss the palm trees blowing in the wind. They miss being able to look out the back of their lanai, even if they're doing it from the air conditioning through the glass. They miss their pond. They miss the ducks, the wildlife on the pond. They miss going to the beach and walking up and down, seeing the beauty of the sand and the surf and all the wildlife, the pelicans that are on the water. You know, sometimes you start to take those things for granted, and you forget that the beauty around you is not something that everyone else has, and it isn't even something that you had when you lived elsewhere. So many times people will move back because that scenery really did mean a lot to their overall well-being. And then kind of wrapped into that is number 4, they miss the overall healthy outdoor lifestyle. So if you move to Naples, Florida, because you know that there's a very strong pickleball community in Naples, Florida, and that sounded fun to you. You never played before, but hey, listen, a giant paddle that's bigger than ping pong, but not quite tennis, that's right up your alley. So you really enjoyed that. You made friends, you were part of a pickleball league, and even when you weren't playing pickleball, maybe you and your wife were taking walks in the evening. Maybe you were going to swim laps up at the resort. Maybe you were becoming a lot more active because you were going to the pool. Maybe you were doing the water aerobics in the morning. Maybe your husband was swimming laps in the lap pool. You were just very active in Florida. But because of maybe the previous reasons that I've brought up, missing family, missing birthdays, sick of the weather, you kind of convinced yourself that it's time to go home. So you do that. And all of a sudden you realize you're not doing any of those things that you enjoyed. You would eat dinner around 4 or 5 o'clock, and then when the sun went down, you would take a stroll with your husband and just enjoy looking at a clear sky, watching the palm trees kind of blow. You really enjoyed doing that. You enjoyed going to play cards with your friends up at the community center every Thursday evening. You looked forward to that. These are things that aren't available to you anymore. And when you had them, you kind of took them for granted. You were missing things that kind of got blown up in your mind as something that you're not not doing anymore, so you really felt like you wanted to go back to that former life that you had. And again, I'm going to say to you, go home more. Make yourself a schedule of going home every quarter. You will be surprised how much you'll miss those things that you used to do. And also things like, I hear this all the time. And you may hear this as well and wonder if it's true or not, but I hear from people all the time that when they're in Florida, if they're snowbirds, let's say they spend 6 months out of the year, when they're in Florida, their knees don't hurt, their ankles don't hurt, their hip pain is gone. There's something about that heat and humidity that apparently helps arthritic conditions. I hear it so often that I would not say that it's just in someone's mind, because I hear it all the time. I don't know if there's something to that, to the weather and how your joints feel, not getting cold and stiff. But also I think something that probably plays a part is you are pretty much outside year round. And even if you're only in the summer months going out during the evening because it is hot in the summer months, you're still going to be a whole lot more active, which I would think would keep your joints a lot less, restricted and painful. And then number 5 is they realize when they sell everything, when they sell their 3-bedroom, 2-bath lanai pool home with a water view, when they go back to their home state and they've been there a week or so, they met with the family, everybody said we're so happy you're back, we're so happy to have you back. When they're sitting night after night in the evening, in the cold, by themselves, and nobody's visiting, and you're not going anywhere, you realize that you left for a reason. You realize that all those things that you left for, the things that stood out to you the entire time that you lived in your home state, those things are still there. And those are things that you are still not okay with. And you can start to have that regret that I really wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I could have my house back. And the problem with that is that you can have your house back, or a different version of your house, or maybe something different altogether, but you might pay a whole lot more money for it, or you might not be able to get what you want, and you probably will not have the same neighbors. So a lot of times, like I said, the very best thing to do many times, that I would strongly suggest to you, that before you sell your home, you go home more, you visit more, you take more vacations back to your home state, and make absolute sure